Everyone thought I loved Su Yun so desperately that if she broke off the engagement, I'd definitely cry and make a huge scene. In my previous life, I really did exactly that. In the end, she turned around and married my enemy, causing me to spend 38 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit. After being reborn, the first thing I did was settle accounts. The money I spent on her during our 2-year engagement, plus compensation for the emotional distress of the broken engagement, rounding it off came to exactly 800. She called me stingy, and I said, "This is only the beginning. I'll settle the Lin family's debt with me one item at a time." I was reborn. The moment I opened my eyes, the familiar pain still lingered in my bones. The weightlessness of being pushed down the stairs, the dull thud of the back of my head hitting the ground, and the cold eyes of the Lin family standing at the top of the stairs looking down at me. These scenes were carved into my mind like knives. In my previous life, I, Xizhou, lived to be 68 and spent a full 38 years wrongfully imprisoned. The day I got out of prison, I thought I could finally catch my breath. But the Lin family found me an eyesore and shoved me down the stairs. And just like that, my life came to such an absurd end. Xizhou, I didn't want to break off our engagement either. It's just that my parents said the childhood betrothal that was agreed on before was with the Lin family's child. Besides, your surname is Fu, and your family are all rightists. In the future, it's hard to say you might. Sob, 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 just agree to it. The familiar voice pierced my ears like needles. I suddenly opened my eyes. In front of me was Su Yun's face, wet with tears. I pinched my thigh hard. It hurt. This wasn't a dream. I abruptly turned my head and stared fixedly at the calendar on the wall. September 26, 1976. I would never forget this date, even in death. On this day in my previous life, Su Yun came to my door in tears, spouting a lot of high-sounding reasons and asking me to understand her difficulties and agree to break off the engagement. At that time, although my household registration was still with the Lin family, Lin Jianya had long since publicly acknowledged his kinship when the Fu family fell from power. All the neighbors knew that the babies had been switched back then, and that I, Xizhou, was the biological son of the old rightists. In my previous life, I was too stupid, thinking that I might be implicated by my biological parents' identity and be fired from the factory, and feeling that even if I forced the marriage, I still wouldn't be able to give her a good life. I nodded in pain. On the very day the engagement was broken off, Su Yun turned around and got engaged to Lin Jianya. As for me, in order to let Su Yun live a good life, I was persuaded by the Lin couple to transfer my job to Lin Jianya unconditionally, and then I was sent down to the countryside. I treated her with all my heart and soul, and every month without fail I gave her half a month's wages. And her? She took my hard-earned money and then turned around and went out eating, drinking, and having fun with Lin Jianya. The two of them squandered my sincere feelings with laughter, enjoying themselves while mocking me for being a fool. It wasn't until right before I died that I found out this shameless couple had already been together for a long time. At the thought of this, my eyes instantly filled with bloodshot veins. When Su Yun saw my reddened eyes, she thought I couldn't bear to part with her, and she felt unbearably pleased with herself. She knew it. Her charm was tremendous. To be honest, Xizhou was indeed better looking than Lin Jianya. But Lin Jianya's family conditions had been better before. Even though their identities had now been swapped, Xizhou was the son of old rightists, so how could she possibly follow him and suffer? Without the slightest hesitation, she chose Lin Jianya. "Xizhou, I'm sorry. Just pretend the two of us were never together." Su Yun wiped her tears, putting on a full performance. Lin Jianya had waited impatiently long enough, and said in a mocking tone, "Xizhou, are you even a man? What's the point of dragging this out so wishy-washily? Su Yun hasn't wronged you. If you want to blame someone, blame your useless parents." I glared fiercely at Lin Jianya, my eyes filled with hatred. Back then, the Lin couple had secretly switched the babies at the hospital so their biological son could enjoy a good life. For the past 20 years, the Fu family knew nothing about it and treated him with utter sincerity, giving him the best life. After enjoying all the benefits, he turned around and bit the hand that fed him. Others might tolerate it, but I won't. I charged forward and slammed a punch into his face. 2 screams rang out at the same time. The first was from my adoptive mother, Zhao Chunhua. Back then, she was the one who personally switched the babies. Seeing her biological son being hit, her heart ached so badly she was trembling. She wanted nothing more than to rush up and tear me apart, but on the surface she still put on an act and scolded me. "Zhou, Jianya is your brother. How could you hit him?" The second scream was Su Yun's. "Xizhou, if you're angry that I broke off the engagement, Then be angry at me. But how can you hit someone? She looked at Lin Jianya with a face full of concern. If I hadn't been there, she probably would have already rushed over to check on him. After all, Lin Jianya wasn't much to look at to begin with. If he got beaten disfigured, wouldn't he look even worse? Su Yun couldn't possibly marry an ugly man. Ignoring them, I pointed at Lin Jianya's nose and cursed, Lin Jianya, for these past 20 years, my parents never let you go without food or clothes, paid for your schooling, and gave you money to squander. How do you have the nerve to say something like that? Lin Jianya spat a mouthful of bloody saliva onto the ground and lunged over wildly, baring his teeth and brandishing his claws, ready to fight me. Zhao Chunhua quickly held him back. Lin Jianya flopped forward like a short-legged toad, looking ridiculous beyond belief. Mom, don't stop me. If I beat this bastard to death today, no one would dare say a thing to me. Isn't he just the son of a rightist? If he dies, he deserves it. His whole family deserves it. A rightist ought to die? Hearing that, the fury in my heart could no longer be contained. I rolled up my sleeves and was about to charge forward. Su Yun immediately spread her arms and stood in front of me. Xizhou, if you want to hit someone, hit me first. I was afraid of being implicated by you, so I wanted to break off the engagement. I was wrong. If it will make you feel better, then beat me to death. She dared to do that because she was certain I couldn't bear to hit her. I had once loved her so desperately. How could I possibly lay a hand on her? At that moment, Zhao Chunhua also reminded Lin Jianya in a low voice. Do you still want that job or not? Lin Jianya instantly sobered up a little, though he still kept cursing. For Su Yun's sake, I won't argue with you today. Fu Xizhou, you just wait. I curled my lips into a cold smile. Wait. Of course I'll wait. Heaven has given me a chance to live again. If I don't screw them over so badly they won't even recognize their own parents, then my surname isn't Fu. I looked at Su Yun and asked in a steady voice, have you made up your mind? For some reason, when Su Yun tried to say the words, I've made up my mind, she suddenly felt that something was off. It was as if those words shouldn't be said. Seeing this, Zhao Chunhua hurriedly added fuel to the fire. Zhou, there's no happiness in forcing things. Su Yun is a good girl. None of us knows what tomorrow will bring. If you should just agree to it. I gave Zhao Chunhua a cold glance. I was asking Su Yun. Let her say it herself. Zhao Chunhua was momentarily speechless. What was wrong with Fu Xizhou today? Not only had he hit Jianya, but even his tone was so cold. But then she thought it over and figured he was probably just upset by Su Yun breaking off the engagement. So she relaxed. Just like Jianya said, Fu Xizhou was hopelessly in love with Su Yun. He'd probably even be willing to give her one of his kidneys. All the better. Later, when they discussed transferring the job, they could use Su Yun as the reason. Zhao Chunhua made up her mind and looked at Su Yun. Su Yun, Zhou won't blame you. Just say it. With several people staring at her, Su Yun took a deep breath and nodded heavily. I've made up my mind. I smiled. Completely different from the gloom before, my eyes were full of mockery. Fine. We were engaged for 2 years, and every month I gave you half my wages, a total of 576. Pay all of it back. You're the one who wants to break off the engagement and make me lose face, so you have to compensate me 200 yuan. I'll round it off. 800 yuan in total. Give it to me right now, and we'll be even. Su Yun stared in disbelief. Fu Xizhou was asking her for money? And rounding it off? How is it rounding off if it only gets higher and higher? Right? He must be unable to accept the broken engagement. So he's deliberately using money as an excuse to make her stay. Thinking of this, the panic in Su Yun's heart turned into smugness again. She really was that charming. But sometimes being too charming wasn't a good thing. Just trying to break off an engagement with Fu Xizhou was this difficult. Xizhou, I don't have any money. She put on an aggrieved look. Besides, didn't you willingly spend that money on me? How can you ask for it back now? Zhao Chunhua also chimed in to help. Zhou, that money's already been spent, so don't fuss over it. And as for that so-called compensation for losses, what losses could a grown man possibly have? Listen to Mom, don't ask for it. I ignored Zhao Chunhua and stared straight at Su Yun, holding out my hand to her. When I was dating you before, I treated you as my future wife. The first time you asked me for money, you personally said it would count as the betrothal gift I gave you. Now that you're the one proposing to break off the engagement, shouldn't you return the betrothal gift I spent on you? Su Yun's face turned deathly pale. She had indeed said that, but she had only said it to coax him into willingly handing over the money. She didn't want to pay this money back, and she had no money to repay it with either. Xizhou, can you not be like this? I don't have any money. Can you really bear to watch me be struggled against? As Su Yun cried, she began looking toward the Lin family for help. Before the Lin family could speak, I coldly reminded her. I earned all that money myself. It has nothing to do with the Lin family. If you accepted my money, then that means you accepted a capitalist's money. If you don't pay it back, I can only go ask the public security what the consequences will be of you having unclear ties with the family of a rightist. Su Yun's eyes widened, and her lips trembled for a long time without her being able to say a word. Was this still the Fu Xizhou who had always indulged her in everything? How had he started threatening her? Lin Jianya couldn't stand it anymore and jumped up, cursing. Fu Xizhou, you're really shameless. Su Yun only accepted your money because she thought highly of you. You should feel honored. How can you still have the nerve to ask for it back? I looked at him coldly. Lin Jianya, you think this is an honor? Lin Jianya lifted his chin, looking completely self-righteous. Of course. If a woman that beautiful were willing to spend my money, I'd wake up laughing even in my dreams. That was exactly the line I'd been waiting for. I clapped my hands. Good, very good. Then I cast Su Yun a sidelong glance. Su Yun, did you hear that? Your legitimate fiancé thinks spending money on you is the greatest honor in the world. If you can't come up with these 800 yuan, then ask him for it. Hurry up. If it's short even by a single cent, I'll go to the public security and also your neighbors, your work unit leaders. I'll tell them one by one. Su Yun let out a scream and cut me off. She completely understood now. Whether Fu Xizhou was doing this out of revenge or because he couldn't let her go, if she didn't come up with the money, he would expose this matter in front of all those people. When that happened, she'd implicate her family, might even lose her job, and could even be struggled against and sent down. With tears in her eyes, Su Yun looked at Lin Jianya. Brother Jianya, can you help me? Ours is a childhood engagement, so let this money count as the betrothal gift you gave me. Lin Jianya was dumbfounded. If he were still carrying the identity of a member of the Fu family, a mere 800 yuan, he definitely would have agreed without a second word. But when the Fu family home was confiscated, he hadn't received any news at all, nor had he been able to spirit away any money in advance. If he hadn't known his own background from early on, he would have been sent down by now. Now he's like a beggar moving house, with nothing at all. Su Yun, 800 yuan is no small amount. Only after hearing this did Zhao Chunhua finally relax a little. 800 yuan. She was really afraid her biological son would agree in a moment of impulse. Bride price? Even military officer families only gave a bride price of 2 or 300 yuan. What does Su Yun amount to, daring to ask for 800 yuan as bride price? I laughed, looking like I was enjoying the show. Lin Jianya, didn't you say this was your honor? Su Yun, looks like you're not that important in your brother Jianya's heart after all. Su Yun's face turned green, then white. Brother Jianya. Lin Jianya glared at me viciously. How dare I stir things up here? Just you wait. Su Yun, I'm proletariat now, and I don't even have a job yet. 800 yuan is really too much. The moment Su Yun heard this, she refused to accept it. Brother Jianya, can you really bear to watch me get sent down to suffer? If you won't help me, then I won't go on living either. She wiped away her tears, filled with resentment. In the past, Lin Jianya had spent quite a lot of the money Fu Xizhou gave her. Lin Jianya's heart softened from her crying, and he turned to look at Zhao Chunhua. Mom. Zhao Chunhua immediately turned her head away, pretending she hadn't heard a thing. She wasn't about to pay this 800 yuan bride price. Su Yun cried even louder. She had finally seen things clearly. Lin Jianya had no money now, and Zhao Chunhua was unwilling to pay either. Wiping her tears, she looked at me, able only to pin her hopes on me softening up. I met her gaze and, without another word, started walking outside. Fine, I'll go find the police. Wait. Su Yun panicked and turned to Zhao Chunhua. Auntie Zhao, just treat it as a loan from me, all right? A loan? Zhao Chunhua's eyes shifted. Is there an IOU? Lin Jianya quickly spoke up for Su Yun. Mom, that's enough. We'll all be one family in the future, so why talk about IOUs and all that? Su Yun has good character. If she says it's a loan, she'll definitely pay it back. With Lin Jianya speaking up for her, Su Yun ultimately didn't write an IOU and got 800 yuan from Zhao Chunhua in the name of a loan. When she handed me the money, her hands were trembling, and her eyes were full of reluctance. After dating Fu Xizhou for 2 years, not only had she gotten no money out of it, she had even lost 224 yuan of her own. She hated it to death. Fu Xizhou, once you take this money, we'll have nothing to do with each other from now on. And you can't go around telling people that you and I were once engaged. After Su Yun said that, she left without looking back. She had to go home and get money to repay Zhao Chunhua. Given Zhao Chunhua's temperament, if she paid back even 1 day late, Zhao Chunhua would never let it go. I counted the thick wad of big unity notes in my hand, waiting for Zhao Chunhua to speak. In my previous life, after I agreed to break off the engagement, Zhao Chunhua immediately brought up the matter of transferring the job. Sure enough. Zhou, Mom wants to discuss something with you, okay? Zhao Chunhua's eyes were practically boring a hole through my pocket. This 800 yuan isn't a small amount either. So how about Mom keeps it safe for you? I let out a cold laugh and shoved my hand into my pocket. Zhao Chunhua was so excited her eyes were practically popping out, as if that thick wad of big unity notes had already returned to her hands. Once Su Yun paid back the 800 yuan, she would make a clean profit of 800. But she waited and waited, and I simply didn't take out the money. Zhou, what's wrong? Don't worry, Mom doesn't want your money. She's just keeping it for you temporarily, and she'll give it to you when you get married. I looked coldly at Zhao Chunhua's greedy face, as if I'd believe her. In my previous life, this was exactly how she tricked me again and again. In the end, she tricked my biological parents, brothers, sisters-in-law, and sisters into miserable fates, tricked what remained of the Fu family's treasures into all bearing the Lin name, and tricked me into taking the blame for Lin Jianya and serving 38 years of wrongful imprisonment. Thinking of this, my fists clenched. Annie, do you also want to be associated with capitalists? Zhao Chunhua froze. Although Lin Jianya has been acknowledged again, my household registration was never moved back, and I never changed how I addressed them to call them dad and mom. But did I used to call them uncle and aunt? Is this brat resentful that she just urged him to break off the engagement? She gave an awkward laugh. What are you saying, child? I'm keeping it for you. I never intended to spend it. Who can say for sure? I spread my hands. I'm a capitalist child, and the money I earn, the red armbands would also consider capitalist money. When the time comes, they won't care whether this money is being kept for you or spent on you. They'll still skin you alive. Zhao Chunhua shuddered in fright at these words, and instantly pictured herself being dragged off by the red armbands for a struggle session. She quickly waved her hands. Well, then, you'd better keep this money yourself. Mom. Lin Jianya panicked. How can we not take this money? As far as he was concerned, Fu Xizhou owed their whole family, and they had to take whatever money there was. If the red armbands asked later, couldn't they just make up some excuse? Zhao Chunhua shot him a look, telling him to shut up. It wasn't that she truly didn't want the money. She was planning to wait until she got the job, then find a way to swindle the money out of him. She forced a smile again. Zhou, Mom wants to discuss something with you. Sooner or later, your situation won't let you keep your factory job. Why don't you transfer the job to Jianya instead? That way the job will be preserved, and our family's life will be a little easier. My gaze darkened. In my previous life, I transferred the job without taking a single cent. When I was sent down to the countryside, apart from the train fare, I didn't have a single extra cent in my pocket, and I even caused my biological parents, who already didn't have enough to eat, to save half their grain ration for me. In this life, I will never be that foolish again. I can transfer the job. When Zhao Chunhua heard this, she smiled like a chrysanthemum in bloom. That's wonderful, Zhou. We really didn't raise you for nothing, but... I cut her off. You'll have to give me 1,200 yuan as the transfer fee. Lin Jianya exploded on the spot. Fu Xizhou, are you crazy for money? You're bound to lose this job sooner or later. And now I'm generously taking it over for you. You don't even have time to thank me, and you still expect us to pay? Dream on. I let out a scornful laugh and spread my hands. Not paying? Then forget it. Anyway, without a job you'll have to go to the countryside. When that happens, you'll be in the village while Su Yun is in the city. That cuckold's hat will come one after another. Lin Jianya's expression changed instantly, and he clenched his fists, wanting to hit me. Zhao Chunhua quickly grabbed him and put on a troubled look. Zhou, 1,200 is too much. We're all family. How about just giving 100 or so as a token? I pulled over a chair and sat down, saying unhurriedly, 1,200 yuan, not a cent less. You can go ask around about the going rate. I'm already giving you a bargain. If you don't want it, tomorrow I'll post a notice at the factory gate to transfer it. Lin Dajuan, who had been smoking with his head down the whole time, suddenly stood up, threw the cigarette, but to the ground and crushed it out hard with his foot, then walked to me with a stern face. Xizhou, we've raised you this big. You know how much money we've spent. If we hadn't supported you through high school, could you have gotten such a good job? I looked at Lin Dajuan coldly. This old man wanted to use moral coercion to make me compromise? But after being reborn once, I'd already seen through their ugly faces completely, as if I'd let myself be manipulated. By your logic, uncle, my biological parents spent even more money on Lin Jianya. And now he still wants my job without paying a single cent. That's the real outrage against all morality. Lin Dajuan was so choked by those words he nearly had a heart attack. Wasn't this kid supposed to be the most filial before? Since when did he become so sharp-tongued? I couldn't be bothered to waste words on them. I stood up and said, before you try to use morality and decency to guilt-trip me, think first about what Lin Jianya did. What he did to my biological parents was worse than a beast. And you still expect me to be filial to you? Lin Jianya's expression changed drastically. How did he know? Back when the Fu family was being controlled, he was furious that they hadn't notified him in advance, which kept him from pocketing some money ahead of time. So regardless of what it was, whether he could say it or not, he spilled everything to the red armbands. Of all those half-true and half-false words, all he hoped for was that every last member of the Fu family would die. He had only told Lin Dajuan and Zhao Chunhua about this, so how did Fu Xizhou know? Anyway, if you want the job, give me 1,200 yuan. I threw out those words and turned around to go back to my room. From outside the door came Lin Jianya's voice, lowered but unable to suppress his anger. Mom, didn't you say Fu Xizhou listened to you the most? First he asked for 800, and now he wants 1,200. Has he gone crazy wanting money? Zhao Chunhua snapped at him. Keep your voice down. Our house isn't well soundproofed. Lin Dajuan asked in a low voice. Kid's mom, should we pay this money? Zhao Chunhua pondered for a while. It really does cost this much to buy a job now. Even if we don't buy his, buying someone else's would cost this price too. The key is that Fu Xizhou's job is easy. If Jianya gets it, he'll be working in an office. I sneered behind the door. A good-for-nothing thug like Lin Jianya, who learned nothing and knows nothing, wants to sit in an office? Even if he takes over my job, in the end he'll still be reassigned to the workshop because he's incompetent. That's exactly what happened in my previous life. I knew they would definitely pay in the end. But I also knew they would absolutely try every possible way to steal the money back. There was still some time before I had to go to the countryside, so I had to figure out a way to hide these two sums of money. But where could I hide them? As I was thinking it over, a mechanical voice suddenly exploded in my head. A host with 100% compatibility has been found. Would you like to bind? I froze. There really is a system? So I wasn't dreaming just now? Before I could answer, that voice went haywire, frantically asking again and again. Would you like to bind? Would you like to bind? Would you like to bind? I felt like Sun Wukong being tormented by Tang Monk reciting the tightening headband spell. If I didn't agree, it might chant me to death. Bind. I gritted out in my mind. Ding. Congratulations, host, on binding to the item exchange system. Item exchange system? What kind of thing is that? Before I could ask in detail, a panel similar to the WeChat chat interface from later generations appeared before my eyes. There was only one group chat in it. Fu Xizhou tapped into it and saw someone had posted a photo of a box of apples. Grown on our own farm. We'll trade for anything. Can't finish eating them. At the same time, the system's voice sounded in my head. The item exchange system only supports bartering goods with people in the group. As long as the host uploads photos of items they want to use for exchange to the group, if group members need them, they will trade items with you. Once both sides agree, you can exchange for the corresponding items. And at the same time, the item you offer in exchange will also arrive in the other party's hands in the form of express delivery. The system will obtain energy according to the corresponding value of the exchanged items. And the energy can be used to upgrade the system. As the system level increases, the built-in storage space will also increase. At the same time, leveling up will unlock more functions. After hearing the introduction, Fu Xizhou's breathing quickened. It really was like someone handing him a pillow just when he was sleepy. He had been worrying about where to hide the money, and now didn't he have a place to put it? System, do I have storage space now? Host, the initial space is 10 cubic meters. With a single thought, you can store things inside it. Fu Xizhou held the great unity bills in his hand, and with a thought, the money in his hand disappeared and was stored inside the space. This cheat ability for a reborn person is really amazing. He couldn't wait to upgrade the system. Fu Xizhou clicked open the group. The group member who had just wanted to trade apples had already completed a trade with another group member. The other party had exchanged a box of pears with that person. Fu Xizhou thought of something else. System, I don't have a camera, so how do I upload photos? The system explained. Host, just use a thought. Fu Xizhou glanced at the bare room. A shabby bed and a rickety desk. Stuff not even a dog would want. In the end, Fu Xizhou fixed his gaze on the double happiness enamel mug on the desk. With a thought, he made his move. A picture of the enamel mug was posted in the group chat, and at the same time the enamel mug on the desk was stored in the space. The system reminded him. Host. Items confirmed for exchange will be automatically stored in the system. Unless you cancel the exchange, The items cannot be taken out. Fu Shizhou understood. Just as he was marveling at the advanced technology, the group members began discussing his enamel mug. Friend, are you serious about using this thing for an exchange? The system reminded him. Host can reply with a thought. Fu Shizhou then replied mentally. Serious. Made in 1970, and 100 years later it counts as an antique. The group instantly burst into laughter, but no one offered to trade. Fu Shizhou felt that no one really wanted this thing. If he wanted to trade for food, he had to find something better. What would be easiest to trade? Antiques? The Fu family had some, but he had no intention of touching them. In this life, with him protecting his family and with the system, they should be able to safely live until they return to the city. And those antiques would be their guarantee for making a living later on. Fu Shizhou remembered that someone in the Lin family ancestry had once been a landlord. Although after several generations, not much had been passed down. But Lin Dajuan had once drunkenly said that the family had a set of Wangwali furniture with exquisite craftsmanship. Given the current circumstances, they dared not bring it out to use, so they had piled it up in the cellar. In his previous life, the Lin family coaxed him into giving all of the Fu family's antiques to them. In this life, he would leave them with nothing. After Fu Shizhou made up his mind, the three people outside the door had also finished discussing it. Zhao Chunhua knocked on the door. Zhou, open the door. Fu Shizhou opened it expressionlessly. Finished discussing it? Zhao Chunhua rubbed her hands together. Zhou, the 1,200 yuan you want is indeed a lot, but we're all one family. We can give you the money even if it means spending our entire family fortune. But you have to agree to one more condition. Fu Shizhou did not respond and just looked at her expressionlessly. Seeing that he said nothing, Zhao Chunhua began to feel uneasy. How had this dead child of her old friend's family turned into this? Those eyes were icy cold, making it feel like he was looking at a dead person. Zhao Chunhua forced a smile and said, once you take this money, you have to sever ties with us and move your household registration out. They had just discussed it all. If Fu Shizhou wanted this money, then they would make him get out. A child of an old rightist. What good could come to him without the Lin family's protection? Fu Shizhou's eyes lit up. He had originally planned to sever ties anyway. In his previous life, he had never thought of cutting ties, but they were afraid of being associated with him, the child of a capitalist. So they secretly asked someone to transfer his household registration out. They did not even tell him about it. As a result, after he was sent to the countryside, his grain ration registration did not follow for quite a long time. Fine. Fu Shizhou agreed at once. Seeing him agree so readily, Lin Jianya flew into a rage and rushed in front of him, pointing at his nose and cursing. Fu Shizhou, you remnant of a capitalist, don't get so full of yourself. My parents raised you all these years, and you don't have a single good word for them, yet you still dare to sever ties? Fu Shizhou raised his hand and slapped the enraged Lin Jianya across the face. Wasn't this your idea? Lin Jianya was stunned by the hit. Back when he was a young master in a capitalist household, who would have dared treat him like this? Zhou, let's talk this out nicely. Why are you still hitting people? Zhao Chunhua glanced at her son. None of them had expected that just 2 days ago Fu Shizhou had still been shamelessly insisting on staying with the Lin family. Yet today he would agree so readily to sever ties. But that was fine too. Once he took this money, they had plenty of ways to get the 2,000 yuan back. Zhao Chunhua, her hands trembling, handed 1,200 yuan to Fu Shizhou. Zhou, this was your own choice, so don't blame mom for being hard-hearted. It's just that the matter with your biological parents is indeed serious, and we're worried about being implicated too. Fu Shizhou reached out to take it. Zhao Chunhua held on to one end of the great unity bills, reluctant to let go. Only when Fu Shizhou put some force into his hand did he pull the great unity bills over. Then he lowered his head and began counting the money. As he counted bill by bill, the eyes of the three Lin family members reddened. Lin Dajuan especially wished he could snatch the money back right now. The things left by their ancestors couldn't be used casually before. But these 2,000 yuan were the entire family's savings. If he could use these 1,200 to gamble, he could at least win back 2,400. Zhao Chunhua stared at the great unity bills one by one, her heart bleeding. Zhou, you must spend this money sparingly. After Fu Shizhou finished counting, he stuffed the money into his pocket. And now go get the household registration moved out. Or should we transfer the job first? Zhao Chunhua was really afraid that Fu Shizhou would take the money and not do what he promised. She felt that Fu Shizhou was acting oddly today. And unless the job transfer was settled, she wouldn't feel at ease. Fu Shizhou replied, the factory director is away on a business trip. I'll first move out my household registration, then go handle the going to the countryside matter. And when the factory director returns, once I transfer the job, I'll go to the countryside. Fu Xizhou wasn't lying. In his previous life, the factory director really wasn't around during these 2 days, and it took him 2 trips before the job transfer to Lin Jinya was finalized. Zhao Chunhua recalled that there did seem to be such a thing, but she was only a workshop hand, and where the factory director went had nothing to do with them at all. She had just happened to overhear it when someone mentioned it. All right. Kid's dad, go with him to the subdistrict office. She was worried that Fu Xizhou might play some little trick and stay in their home. So Lin Dajuan had to go keep an eye on him. Lin Dajuan nodded, and the two went together. The subdistrict office worked efficiently and quickly completed the household registration move-out procedures. Holding the household registration booklet with only his own page in it, Fu Xizhou thought to himself that he would definitely move his household registration back to the Fu family later. When that time came, all 8 family members, none could be missing. Lin Dajuan secretly spat at his back and cursed. Bah, ungrateful wretch. Fu Xizhou ignored him. Rather than wasting time bickering with him, it was better to do more things to get revenge on this family. After walking out of the subdistrict office, he found an excuse to shake off the tag-along Lin Dajuan. I'm going to the factory to ask when the director will be back. Lin Dajuan stared at Fu Xizhou, thinking that surely he wouldn't dare do anything reckless, then shuffled off in his slippers to go play cards. He had specifically taken leave from the factory today to deal with Fu Xizhou's affairs. Now that everything had been handled, his hands were itching, so of course he had to go play a few rounds. Looking at Lin Dajuan's retreating figure, Fu Xizhou's eyes were filled with undisguisable hatred. The system's voice suddenly rang out. Host, someone is interested in trading for the enamel mug. Fu Xizhou stopped and opened the group chat with his mind. Someone in the group had mentioned him. Brother, I think this enamel mug of yours is pretty suitable for soaking instant noodles. How about I trade you 3 packs of instant noodles for it? At this time, domestic instant noodle technology had only just started, and it hadn't become widespread yet. But it was still food after all, and judging from the picture, it was from Master Kong, which was also a pretty good brand in later generations. Fu Xizhou agreed to the trade. Immediately, the enamel mug in his storage space disappeared, and 3 packs of instant noodles appeared instead. The system's voice then sounded. Congratulations, host. The exchange was successful. You have gained 9 points of energy. The energy wasn't much. After this trade, Fu Xizhou figured out that the energy gained through trading was based on the value of the item received after the exchange. In later years, Master Kong instant noodles generally cost 3 yuan per pack. 3 packs made 9 yuan. Fu Xizhou remembered that when he was at his poorest, he would break 1 pack of Master Kong instant noodles in half and eat it in 2 meals. He would never live through those hard days again in this life. Fu Xizhou first went to the supply and marketing cooperative, took out the cigarette coupon and malted milk coupon from his pocket, and bought a carton of Dakiamin and a can of malted milk. Opened 1 pack and put it in his pocket, and stored the rest in his space. He had originally planned to give these cigarette coupons and malted milk coupons to Su Yun's parents in the next couple of days. Fortunately, he hadn't spent them yet. Fu Xizhou arrived at the Educated Youth office and found Director Wu, who specifically handled arrangements for educated youth going to the countryside, and stated his purpose. Hello, I'm here to sign up to go to the countryside. Director Wu looked at Fu Xizhou with approval in his eyes. Good, as expected of one of the motherland's fine young people. Fill out the form here, and also write down the place you'd like to go to the countryside. After filling in his information, Fu Xizhou wrote Xiangyang Village in He Province as his preferred destination for going to the countryside. The Fu family had been sent down to this very place. When Director Wu saw his preference, the approval in his eyes gained a few more traces of excitement. This truly was one of the motherland's outstanding young people. He Province is located in the northeastern part of our country and is remote. And on top of that, it's freezing cold in winter, so hardly any educated youth are willing to go. As the director of an educated youth office, even after persuading this one and that one, he still might not be able to complete the task assigned from above. Unexpectedly, this young man had helped fill 1 quota all by himself. Good. Director Wu had only said 2 of the 3 goods, when Fu Xizhou gave him another surprise. Director Wu, I also have a buddy who wants to go to the countryside to support the motherland's development too, but he's busy right now, so he asked me to come sign him up. Director Wu froze for a moment, and his eyes burst with a gleam as if he had seen a golden legend. He immediately pulled out a registration form and handed it to Fu Xizhou. Really? You can fill in the information on his behalf. Go ahead. Fu Xizhou wrote Lin Jianya's name on the registration form. And for the destination, he chose a rural area in the northwest. The conditions there were about the same as in He province. Then, he signed Lin Jianya's name. In his previous life, Lin Dajuan and Zhao Chunhua had tricked him into taking the blame for Lin Jianya, so he had imitated Lin Jianya's signature. So now when he signed Lin Jianya's name, even if the police came, they wouldn't be able to tell whether it was genuine or fake. Director Wu looked at the signature on the registration form, beaming. How interesting, one to the northeast and one to the northwest. He had completed the quota assigned by his superiors. Good, good, good. Our country's rural development needs good comrades like you. This is a 200 yuan subsidy. You and this comrade Lin get 100 each. Take it, and then both of you go get your things in order. Come get your train tickets in 2 days, and head to the countryside 2 days later. Fu Xizhou took the 20 yuan notes and stood there in a daze. In his previous life, it was Zhao Chunhua who had handled his going to the countryside. After it was arranged, he never received any subsidy. At that time, the educated youth who went with him learned about it and said that the person who handled it for him had definitely pocketed the money. Back then, he had suspected that someone at the educated youth office had embezzled the money, but he had never suspected Zhao Chunhua. Fu Xizhou clenched the money tightly. In this life, the entire Lin family and Su Yun could just wait and see. Director Wu, I have one small request. Director Wu was in a very good mood right now. Let alone one small request, so long as it wasn't excessive. Even if there were 2 small requests, he would agree to them. What is it? Tell me. Fu Xizhou took out a pack of Dakianmen, opened it, took one for himself, and handed the rest to Director Wu. Have a cigarette. Director Wu cheerfully took one out and lit it. This young man really knew how to handle things. Fu Xizhou then said, I can leave in 3 days, but that comrade Lin has some family matters to deal with. So could his departure to the countryside be postponed until a week later? He planned to drop a bombshell on the Lin family after he left. That way, they wouldn't be able to bother him either. Director Wu clapped his hands and said, Such a small matter? Of course that's fine. You're volunteering to support the countryside, not being sent down. Everything is open to discussion. Hearing what Director Wu said, Fu Xizhou exhaled a ring of smoke. Then I'll have to trouble you. After saying goodbye to Director Wu, Fu Xizhou didn't hurry back to the Lin family home, but instead came to the family housing building of the machinery factory. At 5 in the afternoon, the machinery factory workers got off work, and the family housing building was buzzing with voices. Following the memories of his previous life, Fu Xizhou made his way to the factory director's home and knocked on the door. The one who opened the door was the factory director's wife, Zhang Yanhong. Who are you looking for? Fu Xizhou handed over the malted milk essence and introduced himself. Hello, Auntie. I'm Fu Xizhou from the machinery factory. Zhang Yanhong nodded and didn't take the malted milk essence, only saying, Oh, from the machinery factory? You're here to see Old Wei, right? He's away on a business trip. Fu Xizhou shook his head. No, Auntie, I'm here to see you. I heard you've been asking around lately about whose family is selling a job. In his previous life, when he brought up transferring his job, Zhang Yanhong happened to sigh beside him and say that it would be great if this machinery factory job could go to her son. Only then did he learn that the factory director's youngest son had just graduated from high school and, because of policy changes, might not be able to get a job assignment. In those days, if you didn't have a job, you had to go to the countryside. The factory director's family couldn't bear to let their youngest son go to the countryside. Zhang Yanhong's eyes lit up, and she invited Fu Xizhou inside, pouring tea and serving melon seeds before finally asking, You're selling your job? Yes, I am, but I need Annie to help me. Fu Xizhou sat on the sofa and told Zhang Yanhong everything about how the Lin family had reported his biological parents and were also scheming over his job, intending to force him to go to the countryside. After hearing it, Zhang Yanhong spat fiercely and said, What a heartless family. You're right not to give them the job. How much are you planning to sell your job for? Auntie will buy it. Fu Xizhou said cheerfully, Auntie, I've already decided to go to the countryside, so you can name the price for the job. Also, I just want to make sure I can leave smoothly. When the time comes, I may need Director Wei to help me keep the Lin family steady, so that they think I've transferred the job to Lin Jianya. Once I go to the countryside and get rid of this family, that'll be enough. Hearing this, Zhang Yanhong praised Fu Xizhou's cleverness in her heart again. After thinking it over, she said, That's no problem. As for the money for the job transfer, let's go by the market rate, your 2 years' salary. But right now Annie doesn't have enough cash on hand. So how about this? I'll give you 800 yuan, and for the rest I'll make up for it with grain coupons, non-staple food coupons, and the like. Fu Xizhou nodded in agreement. That was great. He had been thinking that, having been reborn at this point in time, Buying things required not only money but also coupons. As for grain, he could exchange the Lin family's things with the people in the group. But what about some non-staple foods, or cloth and cotton, and the like? The things exchanged back might not necessarily exist in this era, and if he took them out to use, he would have to explain them to others, which would be quite troublesome. If he had these coupons, things would be much easier. Seeing that he had no objections, Zhao Yanhong made an appointment with him to go to the factory in 2 days to handle the job transfer procedures. After leaving the malted milk essence behind, Fu Xizhou left Director Wei's home and only then leisurely returned to the Lin family home. As soon as Fu Xizhou pushed open the courtyard gate, he ran right into Lin Xizhi, who had just come back from work. The moment she saw Fu Xizhou, her eyes lit up. She ran up to him in a few quick steps and affectionately took his arm. "Brother, you're finally back. Mom said you took 2,000 yuan from home." Hearing her voice, memories from his previous life came flooding back. Lin Xizhi was the youngest daughter of Lin Dajuan and Zhao Chunhua, and she had grown up following behind him. In his previous life, both before he went to the countryside and after he returned to the city, the one he doted on most was still this younger sister. After he brought his biological younger sister Fu Qiaoxin back to the city, Lin Xizhi, for the sake of her own future, she coaxed him into marrying Fu Qiaoxin off to a domestic abuser. He had no idea the man was abusive. For Lin Xizhi's future, he persuaded Fu Qiaoxin to agree to the marriage. Little did he know that because of this very action, half a year later, Fu Qiaoxin was beaten to death. When she died, she was still carrying a child in her womb. And after he went to prison in Lin Jianya's place, Lin Xizhi never came to see him even once. He lacked clothes and food, and wrote to her begging her to send some things to the prison, but there was not the slightest reply. He had given everything, yet still couldn't get even a shred of sincerity from that ungrateful wretch. Fu Xizhou's face turned cold. After pulling his arm free, he stepped back 2 paces. Lin Xizhi was stunned by his distant attitude, but the moment she thought of those 2,000 yuan, she moved closer again. "Brother, I know you feel bad after breaking off the engagement with Sister Siyun, but out with the old and in with the new." She spoke coquettishly, swaying Fu Xizhou's arm. "That money will just sit there anyway, so lend me some to spend, okay? I've recently taken a fancy to a new dress and a pair of little leather shoes too." In the past, Fu Xizhou had almost always granted her every request, as long as she asked, let alone a dress that cost dozens of yuan. Even if she wanted the stars in the sky, he would have found a way. So Lin Xizhi naturally assumed this time would be the same. Fu Xizhou looked at her coldly. "No." The smile on Lin Xizhi's face froze. "What did you say?" She thought she had misheard, and added, "Why won't you lend it to me? Now that Suyun has already broken off the engagement with you, what's the use of your money if you don't lend it to me to spend?" Fu Xizhou sneered. "What's it to you what I use it for?" "Lin Xizhi, don't be so possessive about other people's money." After saying that, Fu Xizhou went straight into his room. Lin Xizhi was dumbfounded. Watching Fu Xizhou enter the room without even looking back, she frowned. What was wrong with Fu Xizhou? He hadn't been like this before. He had always been generous to her and granted her every request. How had he become like a different person after being dumped by Suyun? Lin Xizhi pouted unhappily, planning to ask him for money again after Fu Xizhou was in a better mood. After returning to his room, Fu Xizhou sat by the bed and asked the system, "Can exchanges in the barter group be delayed?" He wanted to trade the Wangwali wood chairs in the Lin family's cellar for grain, but thinking that even if the people in the group wanted them, they wouldn't be able to come up with that much grain all at once, he asked whether they could agree on the quantity to be exchanged first and then carry out the trade after the other party gathered enough grain. "Host, as long as you and the other party agree on the quantity and timing of the exchanged items, that's fine. Aside from monetary transactions, this system does not interfere with anything else." Fu Xizhou understood. He could first negotiate with the people in the group and carry out the exchange once the other party had prepared enough grain. Fu Xizhou gave the system another mental thumbs up for its intelligence. But then he suddenly thought of another problem. In his previous life, he had heard Lin Jianya say that in the 20th century the chairs sold for more than 100,000. Based on grain prices at the time, that could be exchanged for 20 tons of rice. His storage space probably couldn't hold that much. The storage space couldn't be stuffed full. So Fu Xizhou gave up the plan of trading the chairs for grain and decided to loot the Lin family tonight first and put the treasures into the space. The sky gradually darkened. Fu Xizhou didn't go out for dinner, and no one in the Lin family came to call him either. It wasn't until after 9 p.m. that Zhao Chunhua knocked on his door. "Zhou, are you asleep?" Fu Xizhou said nothing. Zhao Chunhua pushed the door open on her own and walked in carrying a steaming bowl of noodles. You didn't eat dinner, so you must be hungry, right? Mom made you a bowl of noodles. Hurry and eat it while it's hot. She set the bowl on the table, and the aroma of meat drifted out. Fu Xizhou cast a sidelong glance at the noodles with meat in them and sneered inwardly. To steal the 2,000 yuan on him, they really went to great lengths. I have no appetite. Seeing how half-dead he looked, Zhao Chunhua thought it was because of Su Yun. She couldn't help grumbling inwardly. Her own son was the capable one. He had slept with Su Yun long ago. This fool Fu Xizhou had long since been cuckolded, and here he was still heartbroken over it. Zhao Chunhua sat down beside him and pretended to console him. Zhou, isn't it just breaking up with that girl Su Yun? What's the big deal? Is it really worth going on a hunger strike? Listen to Mom. Eat the noodles and get a good night's sleep. Tomorrow you'll forget everything. Fu Xizhou didn't move. Even if you don't eat the noodles, at least drink some of the broth. I added minced meat to the noodles, and the soup tastes great. As Zhao Chunhua spoke, she picked up the bowl, scooped up a spoonful of broth, and held it to his mouth. Looking at her eager expression, Fu Xizhou sneered inwardly, obediently opened his mouth, and took the broth in. When Zhao Chunhua saw that he had drunk it, a flash of cunning crossed her eyes. That's right, now lie down and go to sleep. Fu Xizhou said nothing and lay down directly. As soon as Zhao Chunhua left, he immediately sat up and spat all the broth from his mouth into the chamber pot under the bed. After lying back down, he closed his eyes and pretended to sleep. Time passed until midnight. Fu Xizhou's bedroom door was pushed open by Zhao Chunhua and Lin Dajuan. Out cold? Lin Dajuan asked in a lowered voice. Zhao Chunhua went over to the bedside and, by the light of the kerosene lamp, looked at Fu Xizhou. Delighted, she said, he's sleeping like a pig. I used plenty of the drug. Hurry up and look. Those 2,000 yuan must be in this room. The husband and wife immediately sprang into action. One rummaged through trunks and cabinets, while the other searched the bed. They shook out all of Fu Xizhou's clothes and even turned every pocket inside out. The desk drawers were pulled open. The things inside, along with the quilt and mattress on the bed, were all tossed aside, and even the pillow was thoroughly squeezed over. Nothing on my side either. The two looked at each other, their expressions changing. Where could he have hidden the money? Unwilling to give up, Zhao Chunhua prowled around the room. She knocked on the walls, lay down on the floor, and even tried to pry up the red bricks on the ground. Lin Dajuan was even more direct. He lifted up one of the bedboards and shone a flashlight inside. Other than dust and a few spiders, there was nothing there. Lin Dajuan cursed under his breath in anger. Damn it! Where did that little bastard hide the money? Zhao Chunhua was anxious too, pacing back and forth in the room. Did we miss somewhere? But other than this room, where else could he hide it? How would I know? Lin Dajuan kicked a stool irritably. Once they were sure they couldn't find it, Zhao Chunhua spat viciously and shot a venomous look at Fu Xizhou on the bed. What bad luck. When did this brat become so cunning? He actually knew to hide the money outside? Just thinking about that much money in his hands makes me want to strangle him. Lin Dajuan said with a dark expression, don't worry. Tomorrow make him something good to eat. I'll pour him some liquor, then we'll sound him out. No matter what, we have to make him cough up that money. And after he coughs it up, I'll get him sent down to the countryside. The far northeast or the far northwest, either is fine. Best if he dies there. Zhao Chunhua nodded heavily, also agreeing with this plan. Unable to find the money, the couple could only leave awkwardly. The room fell silent once more. After quite a while, Fu Xizhou, lying on the bed, slowly opened his eyes. He got out of bed and stood behind the door. Only after making sure there was no movement outside did he push it open. He did not turn on the light and, thoroughly familiar with the place, walked to the woodshed in the courtyard. After moving aside a pile of firewood, revealing a pitch-black cellar entrance. The cellar was filled with a musty smell and the earthy scent of soil. In both his past and present lives, this was still Fu Xizhou's first time entering this cellar. Carrying a kerosene lamp, he walked inside. After only a few steps, he saw the grain piled up in the cellar. He opened it up and took a look. 2 sacks of sweet potatoes, 1 sack of potatoes, and beside them another 20 jin of white flour and several jin of soybeans. Fu Xizhou sneered. This was what Zhao Chunhua had stored away to eat during the Spring Festival. In his previous life, the Lin family's grain had clearly been enough. But not long after he was sent down, he received letters from Zhao Chunhua and Su Yun. In the letters, the two of them played the victim, saying the family's food rations were not enough. He mailed his own rations to them. His biological parents couldn't bear to let him go hungry. Without saying a word, they gave him part of their own rations. As a result, his father suffered a hypoglycemic episode, and, on the way while secretly going into the mountains to hunt, was torn to pieces by a wild beast. By the time the villagers of Xianyang village found him, only a head remained. And his mother, because of malnutrition and excessive grief, followed his father not long after the incident. Hatred surged from the depths of Fu Xizhou's heart, and he put all the stored grain into his space. The cellar instantly became much emptier. Fu Xizhou continued walking inward, and soon saw furniture covered with cloth. He pulled off the cloth, and besides the Wangwali wood chairs, there was actually also a square table, a narrow console table, and an antique display shelf. This was a complete set of Wangwali furniture. If this were placed in later generations, it would be worth a fortune. With a wave of his hand, Fu Xizhou stored the entire set of furniture into his space. The deepest part of the cellar was now empty. Fu Xizhou was somewhat disappointed. Was this all the Lin family had? Just as he was about to head back, he suddenly remembered a sentence Lin Dajuan used to drunkenly ramble over and over in his previous life. Xizhou, don't look at how poor our family is now. That's because the policy is bad. Otherwise, your dad would have long since been leading you to the good life, eating and drinking the best every day, with fish and meat galore, and mitai till you're full. At the time, he hadn't paid it any mind and had only assumed he was drunk and making a scene. But on second thought, Lin Dajuan was nothing more than an ordinary worker, so how could he possibly say such things? The Lin family's ancestors had been landlords, so Lin Dajuan must have hidden something. And these things were surely like that set of Wangwali furniture, unable to see the light of day for the time being. Carrying the kerosene lamp, Fu Xizhou carefully felt along the cellar's earthen walls, distinguishing them bit by bit. Before long, he touched a section of wall that felt different. The earthen walls around it were all hard, but this one patch alone was soft. Fu Xizhou crouched down and used his fingers to dig the mud away. After only a few motions, the mud wall collapsed, revealing 2 wooden boxes. He immediately set down the kerosene lamp and opened the boxes, nearly blinded by the golden gleam inside. Looking at the box full of gold, Fu Xizhou's resentful mood improved quite a bit. He put the gold bars into his space, then opened the other box and discovered that inside were actually porcelain pieces and yuan data silver dollars. Fu Xizhou grinned with delight. That old bastard Lin Dajuan had actually hidden so many good things. He put all the treasures into his space, thinking that whether it was the porcelain or the yuan datu, they could be traded for quite a lot of things in the barter group. After making sure there were no other treasures in the cellar, Fu Xizhou carried the kerosene lamp out, piled the firewood back in its original place, and returned to his room to sleep. Early the next morning, the Lin family, as usual, noticed nothing out of the ordinary. Because they hadn't found the money yesterday, Zhao Chunhua deliberately served Fu Xizhou only half a bowl of corn porridge so thin it could reflect a person's face. Fu Xizhou said nothing. After finishing the porridge, he was about to go out. Lin Dajuan called out to stop him. Xizhou, come back a little earlier after work today. The 2 of us should have a good drink together. Fu Xizhou turned back, nodded, and said, okay. After leaving the Lin family, Fu Xizhou didn't go to work. He was thinking about getting some laxatives to give the Lin family members, all full of evil intentions, a thorough clean-out. He went to the state-run restaurant and bought 10 steaming hot meat buns. After eating 3, he put the rest into his storage space, then turned into the black market. During the day, there weren't as many people selling things at the black market. Fu Xizhou wandered around and thought that even in the 1970s, not everyone could afford refined grains. It was necessary to buy some cornmeal and brown rice. Because he had no grain coupons, these items bought on the black market were rather expensive, so Fu Xizhou only bought 10 jin each of corn and brown rice. Then he bought some meat coupons, oil coupons, cloth coupons, liquor coupons, and so on from a ticket scalper. After finding a deserted corner and putting everything into his storage space, he was about to leave when the corner of his eye caught someone furtively exchanging something in the corner. He walked over and discovered the 2 were exchanging stamps. Fu Xizhou paused, recalling that a fellow inmate from when he was in prison had been a stamp collector. The man had bragged that before eating from the state's rice bowl, he had collected quite a few stamps. Now that stamp prices had risen, he planned to sell them after getting out of prison and make a beautiful comeback. At the time, Fu Xizhou had been extremely envious. He had even looked up related books in the prison library, so he knew a fair bit about stamps. Fu Xizhou's heart stirred. He had originally planned to use yuan datu to exchange with people in the trade group for some grain, but now it occurred to him that stamps would work too. Fu Xizhou walked over and saw that one of them was holding a complete set of the 50th anniversary of the founding of the party stamps. There were 9 stamps in total, and they were very well preserved. "Comrade, how are you trading this set of stamps?" The man glanced around warily before asking him. "Do you have nationwide grain coupons?" Fu Xizhou shook his head. In these times, nationwide grain coupons were a highly sought-after item. Many families treasured them and wouldn't use them unless absolutely necessary. Thinking of how in later generations grain coupons were abolished and the planned economy shifted to a market economy, many families still kept grain coupons at home, afraid that one day the planned economy might be implemented again and these grain coupons would still be useful. So when he died, quite a few households still had grain coupons. It's just that these things weren't worth much. Maybe she could try her luck in the trade group and might be able to get some. No nationwide grain coupons? Then how much money can you offer? How much do you want? Fu Xizhou calculated that this set of stamps could sell for over 5,000 in later generations. That could be exchanged for quite a lot of rice and white flour. A calculating gleam flashed in the man's eyes as he held up 2 fingers. 20 yuan. 20 yuan was more than half a month's wages for an ordinary worker, and few people would be willing to spend that on stamps. Fu Xizhou reached into his pants pocket as if to take out money, but in fact he took out 2 great unity notes from the system and exchanged them for the stamps. Seeing how generous Fu Xizhou was, the man's mouth suddenly curled greedily. "Do you want the whole set?" Fu Xizhou paused in the act of handing over the money, then heard the man say, "For a complete set. 20 yuan is too little, it has to be at least 50. Fu Xizhou's face darkened, and he made as if to leave. Seeing his scheme had failed, the man grabbed him and said, "Little comrade, everything's negotiable. Don't go." Fu Xizhou glared at him. "We agreed just now, 1 set for 20 yuan. If you want to trade, then trade. If not, forget it." The man also needed the money to buy grain, so in the end, he could only agree. Holding the stamps, Fu Xizhou walked out of the black market. When no one was paying attention, he posted photos of the stamps in the trade group. Fu Xizhou, a complete set of 50th anniversary of the founding of the party stamps, exchanging for rice and flour. Anyone interested? The group instantly exploded. Someone in the group named Butcher Stall Old Wang asked him. A 50th anniversary of the founding of the party stamp set issued in the 1970s. And it's still so new. "Brother, how much rice do you want?" Fu Xizhou smiled. Sure enough, there were stamp collectors. He replied, 500 jin of rice and 500 jin of flour, no bargaining da. Butcher Stall Old Wang. "Okay, I need some time to get things ready, Brother Xizhou. Can you give me an hour?" Fu Xizhou replied with okay. Then he asked again, "Can you also trade me a pack of laxatives?" Old Wang from the pork stall. "I actually do have that stuff, prescribed by the hospital. It's insanely strong. Eat half a pack and it'll work right away, guaranteed to clear you out all the way. Just wait there." Someone immediately said that Old Wang had closed the trade so fast when they had wanted to trade too. Fu Xizhou, "Everyone, there will be more in the future. I still have things like yuan datu. And when I need something, I'll put them up to trade for supplies. I hope you'll all support me more from now on. After saying that, he stopped looking at the group. Anyway, when the trade was completed, the system would notify him. With the laxatives secured, Fu Xizhou went to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy 2 bottles of matai and 2 jin of bulk liquor, then turned and entered the post office next door. He bought all the stamps he could get. His behavior aroused the suspicion of the post office staff. "Young comrade, why are you buying so many stamps?" Fu Xizhou explained. "I'm going to the countryside and want to turn some money into stamps, so thieves won't set their sights on me, and I can also use them later when I mail letters back to the city." The post office staff nodded and didn't ask any more questions. After buying the stamps, Fu Xizhou planned to go home. Passing by the scrap collection station, he suddenly thought of a major event next year, the restoration of the college entrance examination. His younger brother and younger sister were just the right age to take it. In his previous life, his younger brother and sister had done very well in school, but because they were sent down, they ultimately didn't take the college entrance examination. In this life, with him changing his family's fate, if his younger brother and sister study hard, then once they are rehabilitated and return to the city, they will be able to take the college entrance examination. Fu Xizhou changed direction and walked into the scrap station. He handed the old man there a pack of Defengman cigarettes and began rummaging through piles of old books and newspapers. After searching for half an hour, he finally found a complete set of textbooks from the first year of high school to the 3rd year. Although they were somewhat worn, all the contents inside were complete. The old man at the scrap station, for the sake of the Defengman cigarettes, charged him only 2 mao and let him take the books away. After leaving the scrap station, the books in his hands were put into the space. At this moment, the system reminded him, "Host, Old Wang from the pork stall has finished preparing the goods." Would you like to trade now? Fu Xizhou was delighted. Trade. As soon as he said that, the 50th anniversary of the founding of the party stamp set in his space disappeared. At the same time, 500 gene of rice and 500 gene of white flour were piled into the space, along with an extra pack of laxatives. Looking at the rice and white flour taking up half the space, Fu Xizhou was glad he hadn't traded the Wangwali furniture for grain. Otherwise, this space really wouldn't have been enough to hold it all. Right now, he had to upgrade the system space as quickly as possible. The system's voice rang out. Congratulations, host, on completing the trade successfully. You have obtained 5,000 energy points. Current energy, 5,009 points. Upgrading the system requires 5,000 energy points. Would you like to upgrade, host? Upgrade. Fu Xizhou waited expectantly. Before long, the system broadcast sounded again. Congratulations, host, on successfully upgrading. Reward. 1 bottle of basic nutrient solution. Items rewarded by the system cannot be used for trading and can only be used in the current time and space. Current level, level 2. Remaining energy, 9 points. The shop function has now been unlocked for the host. Friendly reminder. Upgrading the level 3 system requires 10,000 energy points, and functions related to planting will also be unlocked at that time. So please trade more, host, to obtain more energy. Fu Xizhou could no longer hear what the system said afterward. A shop panel had already appeared before his eyes. All kinds of strange items were sold in the shop, things like invisibility cloaks and strength-enhancing liquid. Even the basic nutrient solution the system had just rewarded him was also for sale. System, what effect does this basic nutrient solution have? The system reminded him. Host, click on the item to view the instructions for use. Fu Xizhou clicked, and the instructions for the basic nutrient solution appeared before his eyes. Basic nutrient solution. Usage. Take the undiluted solution directly or after dilution. Effect. Enhances the drinker's physique. Depending on the concentration, the effect varies, and in critical moments it can briefly save a life. Fu Xizhou's eyes lit up. This is good stuff. He looked at the shop panel and saw that every item required energy and couldn't help sighing. He only had 9 energy points right now, so he couldn't buy anything. If he wanted to exchange things with others to obtain energy, he had to find something good. Otherwise, for ordinary food and drinks, nobody would trade with him. He could only take it slow. Fu Xizhou returned to the Lin family home. Before going in, he looked around, and after making sure no one was there, he took out the 2 bottles of Maotai he had just bought from his space, carried them, and pushed the door open. The moment he pushed the door open, he smelled the aroma of meat. When Lin Dajuan saw the Maotai in his hands, his eyes lit up. Xizhou, you bought Maotai? Fu Xizhou nodded. Yeah, didn't we say we'd have a drink? I figured since I got so much money, I should buy 2 bottles of good liquor to show you some filial respect, right? Lin Dajuan felt that something about Fu Xizhou's words was a little off, but with his mind full of Maotai. For a moment, he didn't feel that anything was wrong. He just swallowed his saliva and nodded. Why yes, you really are a good child. Lin Jianya rolled his eyes and cursed Fu Xizhou inwardly for being hypocritical. That really sounded damn nice, but in the end, wasn't he still spending the Lin family's money? Hearing the commotion, Zhao Chunhua poked her head out from the kitchen and saw that Fu Xizhou was indeed carrying 2 bottles of Maodai. And her heart bled. This was all bought with her money. Zhao Chunhua really wanted to snatch the money back, but for tonight's plan to go smoothly, she could only endure it and put on a reproachful expression. Zhou, why did you buy such expensive liquor? Even if you have money, that's no way to spend it recklessly. Hurry and return it. Seeing that Zhao Chunhua wanted nothing more than to chop him up, yet still had to put on an act, made Fu Xizhou feel delighted. Doesn't Uncle Lin just love this? As long as he drinks happily, no matter how much it costs, it's worth it. Right. Xizhou is absolutely right. Lin Dajuan wished he could open a bottle right now and have a taste. Ordinary people like us usually can't drink this liquor. This is what only leaders get to drink. If I drink it today, isn't that a good omen? Tomorrow I can become a leader. Fu Xizhou sneered inwardly. He didn't know whether Lin Dajuan could become a leader in his next life. But in this life, he definitely wouldn't become one. Lin Jianya also hadn't had a drink in quite a while, and was a little craving it. So he said, Dad is indeed right about that. This liquor is good. Since it's already been bought, Mom, stop nagging and hurry up and cook. Let's drink together. Seeing her husband and son both acting like this, Zhao Chunhua could only curse inwardly and head back to the kitchen to cook. Once the food was on the table, Fu Xizhou stood up holding a bottle of Maodai. I'll go pour the drinks. Zhao Chunhua also said, Zhou, pour your mom a little too. Since it was already bought, She had to at least have a taste of what this liquor was like. Lin Xizhou also said, "Brother, I want some too." "Sure thing." Fu Xizhou agreed with a smile and turned to go into the kitchen. "Drink up, everyone." A torrent of diarrhea. Wouldn't that be satisfying? When Fu Xizhou entered the kitchen, what he poured into their cups was the bulk liquor bought from the supply and marketing cooperative. Moutai. They weren't worthy of drinking it. After pouring the liquor, he then added the laxative that old Wang from the pork stall had given him into their drinks. Once the liquor was served, Lin Dajuan couldn't wait to take a sip and even smacked his lips. The taste of this liquor. Why does it feel about the same as the bulk liquor I usually drink? Is this what Moutai tastes like? Lin Dajuan took another 2 sips and pretended he was tasting some heavenly delicacy. Delicious. As expected of Moutai. Lin Jianya also took a sip and frowned. This is Moutai. Why does it feel different from what he drank before? This liquor tastes off. Lin Jianya said, looking at Fu Xizhou. Fu Xizhou, you didn't buy bulk liquor to cheat us, did you? This is Moutai. Fu Xizhou said without changing expression. Then why doesn't it taste the same as what I drank before? Fu Xizhou said, what you drank before was probably special supply, right? When the Fu family was in its glory days, so many people rushed to curry favor with them that they didn't even have to buy their own liquor. What they drank was all special supply sent by others. Exactly. Then of course it's different. How could special supply be the same as what you buy at the supply and marketing cooperative? Fu Xizhou took a bite of meat. If you think it doesn't taste good, then give it to me to drink. Hearing this, the Lin family all lifted their bowls and took a big gulp, afraid that drinking one less mouthful would mean a loss. Fu Xizhou lifted his bowl and took a sip of the real Moutai, looking at this family of 4. Drink more. Even if it doesn't kill you, it'll at least flush out the foul stuff in your bellies. The 4 members of the Lin family drank a full 2 gin of bulk liquor and an entire packet of laxative. After the meal, Lin Dajuan's eyes darted around as he was just about to start fishing for information from Fu Xizhou when suddenly, with a gurgle, his expression froze. Right after that, Lin Dajuan felt a sharp pain in his stomach. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead, and the expression on his face twisted. Gurgle, gurgle. The sound was loud enough for the other 3 people at the table to hear. Zhao Chunhua frowned. Old Lin, what's wrong with you? Lin Dajuan squeezed his legs together, unable to get a word out. He waved his hand, grabbed some toilet paper, and rushed outside. Lin Jianya mocked him. Dad, your alcohol tolerance really isn't great. You drank so little and already have to run to the toilet. No sooner had he finished speaking than, gurgle, Lin Jianya's expression stiffened, and he had no time to keep mocking Lin Dajuan, clutching his stomach as he ran outside. Dad, give me some toilet paper. Zhao Chunhua and Lin Xizhou looked at each other. Mom, could there be something wrong with this liquor? Lin Xizhou said in a low voice. She felt her stomach was also starting to ache faintly. Zhao Chunhua also sensed that something was wrong. Could there be something wrong with Moutai? She looked at Fu Xizhou, but before she could ask, a powerful urge to defecate rushed toward her anus. Zhao Chunhua couldn't care about anything else, clamped her buttocks together, and ran outside. Lin Xizhi's face turned pale, and she followed her out. Fu Xizhou leisurely finished the last bite of his meal and set down his bowl and chopsticks. Old Wang's product was truly top quality. He took out the 4 double crackers left over from New Year from the cabinet and followed them out. The dry toilet in the courtyard compound was divided by gender, and each side only had 2 pits. Lin Dajuan and Lin Jianya occupied the men's toilet. Zhao Chunhua and Lin Xizhou occupied the women's toilet. The moment the 4 of them squatted down, they could no longer hold it in. As soon as their sphincters relaxed, it sprayed out. The toilet filled with the sound of diarrhea rushing out in torrents. Ow, my stomach. Mom, did you put laxative in the food? What the hell are you talking about? It must have been that bastard Fu Xizhou who put something in the liquor. Once I get out, I'll kill him for sure. As the 4 cursed while having diarrhea, Fu Xizhou appeared at the back wall of the toilet with toilet paper plugging his nose. Hearing that the 4 still wouldn't stop, even while squatting in the toilet, he sneered. Even with shit at your doorstep, you still can't stop running your mouths. Fu Xizhou struck a match, lit the fuse of the double crackers, and threw them in. 1 for each squat pit. The double crackers exploded in the cesspit. The next second, aged sewage mixed with what had just been excreted exploded upward like a fountain. Bang. Ah. 2 blood-curdling screams came from the men's toilet. Immediately after, the same sound rang out from the women's toilet as well. Bang. Help. After lighting them, Fu Xizhou turned and ran out of the courtyard compound to avoid being choked by the smell of shit. After leaving the courtyard, he hurried to his friend Zhang Huiman's house. Back in the courtyard, The other residents were awakened by the commotion and poked their heads out one after another. Which little rascal was throwing firecrackers in the middle of the night? Why is someone shouting for help too? It sounds like it's coming from the toilets. Sounds like old Lin's daughter yelling. All this racket in the middle of the night. Are people supposed to sleep or not? The neighbors in the courtyard came out grumbling. But as soon as they got near the public toilet, the stench of excrement drove them back several steps. Oh my God, who blew up the cesspit? Right after that came the Lin family's 4 members crying and wailing for help. Help! Somebody come quick. Following the sound, the neighbors saw the 4 members of the Lin family crawling out of the toilet. And they were all shocked. From head to toe, the 4 of them were covered in yellow, green, and black unidentified sticky matter, some of it still dripping down. The overpowering stench was so strong people could barely keep their eyes open. Is that Lin Dajuan's family? That's them. They fell into the cesspit? Ugh, it stinks so bad. Hurry and bring some water to rinse them off, or none of us will be able to sleep tonight because of the smell. So the households nearest the public toilet took buckets and splashed water on them from a distance. Sensing someone was helping, the Lin father and sons immediately crawled forward, wishing they could wash the filth off themselves at once. Who would have thought they'd just be shunned instead? Stay back. Don't come over. We'll just throw water. It reeks. Living near the toilet is really unbelievably unlucky. After being rinsed with water, Zhao Chunhua became a little more clear-headed. Seeing that some people were still standing by with folded arms, she grew displeased. What are you all staring at? Why aren't you helping already? A bunch of heartless people. An older woman got angry when she heard that. Zhao Chunhua, what kind of attitude is that? If we weren't afraid you'd all stink to death here, who'd bother with you? Lin Dajuan, with a head full of filth, was trembling with rage. He was certain that double-bang firecracker just now had been thrown by that little bastard. Where did that little beast Fu Xizhou run off to? Someone went to check the Lin family's room. No one was there. Xizhou wasn't home. Lin Jianye felt his eyes were so smeared over that he couldn't see clearly. He instinctively wiped his face, but without noticing, he opened his mouth and accidentally got some in it, then vomited on the spot. Vomiting and cursing at the same time. He said, "It had to be Fu Xizhou. When I catch him, I'll skin him alive." Lin Jiji broke down even more and burst into tears. When had she ever suffered such humiliation? Dad. Mom. Ugh. Lin Jiji felt a stomachache coming on and crawled back to the toilet to continue having explosive diarrhea. The other 3 in the Lin family were the same. Just after recovering a little, their stomachs started hurting again, and they practically crawled back to continue with diarrhea. The neighbors in the courtyard were speechless. They had finally managed to rinse a bit of the filth off them, and now they had gone back to relieve themselves again. The neighbors looked at each other. Going back in there to get blasted by shit again? Pa, this toilet can't be used anymore. What rotten luck. This is what you get for doing too many bad things. Retribution. Fine if they got blown up by shit, but why drag us into it too? Zhao Chunhua and Lin Dajuan already had a bad reputation, and now they've made the whole courtyard stink. The neighbors cursed non-stop and stopped caring about them altogether. But after all their commotion, the entire courtyard was filled with the smell of excrement. By the time the 4 members of the Lin family finally returned home after their stomachs stopped hurting, the neighbors' curses still hadn't stopped. By this time, Fu Xizhou had already arrived at Zhang Huiman's house. Zhang Huiman had just eaten and was getting ready for bed, and was quite surprised to see Fu Xizhou come by. What brought you here? Fu Xizhou said. Something happened, and I had nowhere to go. I'd like to trouble you and stay the night. Come on, saying that makes it sound too distant. My home is your home. Stay as long as you want. Zhang Huiman warmly pulled him inside. What's wrong? Did your adoptive parents scold you again? Fu Xizhou nodded. More or less. Zhang Huiman sighed. I told you, your adoptive parents are no good. You should have separated from them long ago. Fu Xizhou took a sip of water and looked at this friend, the only one from his previous life who had ever sincerely treated him well. In his previous life, when he was having the hardest time after being sent to the countryside, with no other options, he wrote to Zhang Huiman for help. At that time, the Zhang family had already fallen on hard times and was struggling too. But he still mailed him a thick stack of grain coupons and 20 yuan bills. He remembered this kindness for a long time and planned to repay it if he ever had the chance. Unfortunately, just after he returned to the city, Zhang Huiman was executed by firing squad. The reason was that he had been framed by a widow. Fu Xizhou remembered that Zhang Huiman met this widow 2 days after he was sent to the countryside. The widow had already gotten pregnant by fooling around with another man. She had her eye on the fact that Zhang Huiman's father was a deputy factory director, so she set a honey trap for him. Zhang Huiman had no choice but to marry the widow, and then became a ready-made father. In just 2 short years, the widow cuckolded him countless times. Later, dissatisfied that Zhang Huimin's father had lost his job, she directly framed Zhang Huimin for treason and collaboration with the enemy, fabricated evidence, and got him executed by firing squad. Fu Xizhou truly could not bear to watch Zhang Huimin walk the same path as in his previous life again. So he said, "Huimin, I need to tell you something, and don't dismiss it. Go on. In a couple of days, a woman called Widow Li may approach you. Stay away from her. She's not a good person." Zhang Huimin froze. "Widow Li? Who's that? I've never even heard of her." "Xizhou, did you hear something?" "Don't worry about what I heard. Just remember that I would never harm you." Fu Xizhou's expression was solemn. "That woman is already pregnant. She has her eye on your family's money and wants you to take the fall for the bastard in her belly. She's planning to set you up with her lover in a honey trap. If you fall for it, you'll have no choice but to marry her, and later she'll ruin your whole family." Zhang Huimin felt that what Fu Xizhou said sounded a bit far-fetched. Since when had his brother become some kind of prophet? No way, right? "I'm not stupid." "You're not stupid, but you can't stand up to someone scheming against you on purpose." Fu Xizhou looked serious. "In short, trust me this once and stay far away from any woman who actively throws herself at you." Seeing that he didn't look like he was joking, Zhang Huimin also became serious. "All right, I'll remember that. Thanks, brother." Fu Xizhou nodded and said no more. Some things only need to be hinted at. Fu Xizhou didn't return to the Lin family home until the next morning. The moment he stepped into the courtyard compound, a strong stench of shit hit him in the face. Fu Xizhou hadn't expected the double firecrackers to be so powerful. He suddenly felt sorry for the other innocent neighbors in the courtyard compound. When an auntie saw him come back, she waved at him. "Xizhou, come here. Auntie wants to ask you something." Fu Xizhou walked over. "Go ahead, auntie, what is it?" "Lin Dajuan said you were the one who blew up the latrine pit. What exactly happened?" Looking at the anger on the auntie's face, Fu Xizhou knew that if he told the truth, he'd get beaten up, so he decisively shook his head. "No, I had only just come back yesterday and then went right back out. Zhang Huimin invited me out for drinks. I drank too much last night and even slept over at his place." The auntie nodded, and her expression softened a little. "I figured it wasn't you. You're a good kid. It's just a pity." The auntie wanted to say it was a pity he was the child of capitalists, but in the end she stopped herself. Wouldn't that just be stabbing him right where it hurt most?